Good Tuesday morning, everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's weather forecast, I will be tracking spring-like temperatures with a storm this week with heavy rain, snow, and severe weather. Then an intense storm as possible next week with more rain, snow, and even more widespread severe weather we'll be tracking as well. And then we'll be looking over the long-range weather forecast. Is winter over? All those questions will be answered and much more in this video. Looking through today, we have some warm spring-like temperatures, especially centered on the southeast and the central Gulf Coast states here this afternoon. We got widespread 60s and 70-degree temperatures down here, but farther to the north, it's still pretty warm as well across the Dakotas, getting across the Missouri Valley and the Ohio Valley as well. Temperatures here will be in the 40s and 50s, and even as we go into midweek on Wednesday, February 8th, we still have that warmth sticking around much of the eastern two-thirds of the country with widespread 70s from the Carolinas, the central Gulf Coast states, and down into Florida through that Wednesday timeframe. We also are tracking our new storm system that will start to move out across the southern plains toward the Red River here through the day today, bringing more widespread heavy rainfall and some lower end severe weather potential as well. That will move up toward the mid-Mississippi Valley region as we head towards midweek on Wednesday, February 8th. But if you guys are with me here on this video, don't forget to press the subscribe button down below. You get all of my daily weather forecast updates on this channel each and every day at 9 a.m. Also press the like button, it's the thumbs up button down below the video. It helps to get all of this weather information out to more and more people, so I definitely appreciate if you guys would hit both buttons down below the video. But as we go through this week, we have that trough digging down all the way far south into New Mexico and northern Mexico as well through the day today, and then eventually ejecting across the southern plains into the mid-Mississippi Valley region as we get through midweek on Wednesday, February 8th. And with that, starting today, we do have a lower end threat for severe weather. The Storm Prediction Center has hoisted a marginal risk for severe storms in a very small area here of coastal Texas. This is near the Houston area and down toward Corpus Christi, Victoria, Texas through the day today. We are watching for an isolated 2% shading here for tornadoes and also 60-mile-per-hour winds. The hail threat is less than 5% because the instability is not going to be very high through the day today. So looking here hour by hour through the afternoon, starting around noon time frame, we got some scattered showers up here near the Red River across Oklahoma, North Texas here. These are just going to be some pesky showers with maybe some rumbles of thunder. Farther south, maybe some warm air advection type of sprinkles and showers farther south here into eastern Texas. But by the time we get into the evening hours, we are going to start to see more isolated to widely scattered thunderstorms start to erupt across the I-20 corridor farther south towards Houston, Victoria, Texas, and the Corpus Christi area. And as it's coming in over kind of an unfavorable time of day, well after dark, I do think that's why we have that marginal risk for severe storms, and this is going to linger in toward the early morning hours on Wednesday around 6 a.m. with some of that heavier rain extending up there toward Little Rock and the Shreveport area and up there toward Tyler, Texas as well. Looking at the rainfall totals going from now through tomorrow, we are seeing a widespread swath appear across the Arklatex, getting into eastern portions of Oklahoma, East Texas, and then on up into southern Missouri. Around an inch or so of rain is on the way across these areas, and some of these areas here, especially up there towards Texarkana, we could be talking about near 2 inches worth of rain going through the next 24 hours, and that is why we do have that slight risk for flash flooding from the DFW Metroplex on up north and east toward Fort Smith, Arkansas, Little Rock, and then into eastern portions of Oklahoma here from today into the day on Wednesday. Then by the time we get into Wednesday, a more widespread zone of severe weather does become apparent, especially across the lower Mississippi Valley here. The Storm Prediction Center has highlighted a slight risk, a level 2 of 5, across southeastern Arkansas, much of Louisiana, and Mississippi. But that severe weather threat of a marginal threat lifts farther up to the north across downstate Illinois, Indiana, and portions of western Kentucky, southeastern Missouri. We do have a larger zone for tornadoes tomorrow at 2 to 5% shading of tornadoes. We have a higher chance of tornadoes here across Jackson, Mississippi, Baton Rouge, Shreveport, and then on up into the southeastern side of Little Rock. Also the threat for damaging winds around 60 miles per hour and smaller hail to up to around quarter size is possible throughout this event going through tomorrow. And the setup with this is like this. We have the dew points into the middle 60s on up across the lower Mississippi Valley through Wednesday evening, but we also do have that powerful mid-level jet rounding the base of this negatively tilted trough, and this is going to spell out the potential for damaging winds through that Wednesday evening time frame. We also, however, do have that moderate low-level jet as well, with those moderate values around 35 to 45 knots or so across Mississippi into Louisiana and Arkansas. And as we go through the noon time frame on Wednesday, we're going to see a broken line of some scattered storms and maybe some supercells embedded within here through that time frame from Arkansas down into northwestern Louisiana into East Texas. That will spread farther east, and more potent line of storms may get going across Louisiana, southeastern Arkansas, into western Mississippi through the 6 o'clock time frame. This would probably pose a risk of more damaging winds, isolated tornadoes, and some very heavy rain, and also the outside chance of some hailstones up to around quarter size. Farther north from here, it's all heavy rain across eastern Kansas, Missouri, downstate Illinois, into portions of southern Indiana. And then as we get into the 3 o'clock hour after midnight, moving into Thursday morning, we see a widespread line of storms from southern Illinois all the way south to the central Gulf Coast states here. Any one of these storms could be severe from southern Illinois all the way to the Gulf Coast. You do see snow on the backside up here, though, and that will be something we'll talk about here in just a moment. But looking at the heavy rainfall with this system from now through Thursday, we're going to be seeing some decent totals, especially around Little Rock here, getting into southern Missouri, down into the Gulf Coast states here, and back into Texas. We're talking a widespread 1 to 3 inches worth of rain across those areas, and that's why as we go into midweek on Wednesday into Thursday, we have another marginal to slight risk for flash flooding, and this time starting to move up a little farther north with this into southern Missouri, northern portions of Arkansas, and southern portions of Illinois, with that slight risk for flash flooding. But then we got the cold side to the storm. Now, it's not going to be very cold, but the system is going to have enough cold air wrapping around the backside of the system on Thursday to have a little bit of snow. So the upper elevation type of temperatures here in the low levels, we are going to be seeing those temperatures marginally cold here around, -5, -10 degrees Celsius. But once we get down toward the surface, near surface temperatures around noon time frame on Thursday will be marginal. We're going to see upper 20s, if not widespread low to mid 30s down here across Iowa, northern Missouri, up into Wisconsin. And that's where we're going to see a narrow stripe of snow going into Thursday morning from northern Missouri into eastern Iowa, the Cedar Rapids area, getting up toward Prairie du Chien, La Crosse, Wisconsin, getting in towards the Baraboo area as well. And then as we get up here into the mid-afternoon hours on Thursday, that heavier snow swath will start to spread up toward Green Bay, the UP of Michigan, and then eventually into the Canadian provinces here of Ontario and Quebec. And then as we get into Friday morning, just some lingering moisture with some isolated flurries and scattered snow showers across portions of northern Illinois, northern portions of Missouri, and far eastern Iowa around the Davenport area as we head towards the 6 a.m. time frame on Friday. Looking at the snowfall swath here, it is pretty significant on this model, but I do think this will extend from northern Missouri into eastern Iowa, far northwestern Illinois here, and then getting through central Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, into southeastern Canada. But I did draw this up because I do think those models are a little bit overdone with the snowfall totals. So I do think a widespread 1 to 3 inches is likely from northern Missouri across east central Iowa through southeastern Minnesota, much of Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, then on up into southern Ontario. And then an even narrower zone of 3 to 6 inches is likely from far northeastern Iowa, getting into central Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan as we head through that Thursday into Friday timeframe late this week. That will be causing some at least minor travel inconveniences, so definitely slow down on the roads as we go into late this week across especially northeastern Iowa into central Wisconsin, and then on up into the UP of Michigan. But thereafter, we still have those above normal temperatures dominating the eastern 2/3 of the country, while we have colder than normal temperatures across the West Coast through the February 16th timeframe. And then we also have above normal precipitation across the center of the country going into next week with a new storm system that will start to emerge as well. And this system will be diving far south as well, all the way down even farther south than the previous system, down into northern Mexico and the Baja of California on Monday, February 13th. And that will eventually start to get eaten up by another trough diving down across the Pacific Northwest. And that will make for a large trough across the western two-thirds of the country. We got some blocking pattern here up into portions of eastern Canada. So this might slow that trough ejection down as we head towards the middle of next week. And what that means is as the blocking up into eastern Canada slows the trough down, we're going to see a very powerful mid-level jet start to take shape by next week, especially around that Wednesday time frame. And that's going to start to mean more moisture traveling farther north with the slowdown of that trough. We're going to see more of that moisture moving up into Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, and possibly even the eastern Dakotas early next week during that 14th and 15th time frame. And so as we go into Monday, we got some scattered showers down here into Texas, some higher elevation snows across New Mexico. By the time we get into Tuesday, early next week, we do possibly have a squall line of more widespread severe weather from the Arklatex down across portions of the Gulf Coast. Just general heavy rain again across the upper Midwest into the western Great Lakes. And looking at temperatures next Tuesday, February 14th, we're going to have another deep warm sector with this system to work with, and we're going to be tapping into that Gulf of Mexico moisture with dew points rising well into the 50s, if not the 60s, down especially across the Arklatex regions during this time frame. And we also have to be concerned about the kinematics with this system. We have another powerful negatively tilted mid-level jet rounding the base of that large-scale trough across the west coast as it ejects slowly across the southern plains next week. And we also have probably a stronger low-level jet next week than we see this week. So that does concern me for more tornado potential as we head during that Tuesday and Wednesday time frame next week. And here's where I think the system will start to peak with the severe weather potential. I think it will be on Tuesday, February 14th, and we have to really watch this across the Arklatex. Severe weather will be possible across eastern Texas on up through the Little Rock area, Memphis, and then over into portions of New Orleans, Alabama. But the likely area, I think, for severe weather will be across southern, southeastern Arkansas, and northern portions of Louisiana, and to much of Mississippi and far western Alabama with that squall line. And then that system will spread up farther northeast across the central and western Great Lakes by the middle of next week on Wednesday, spreading out more snow across the north central Rockies on up into southern and southeastern Canada. But it looks like we're going to have some heavy rainfall with this system as well. Getting toward the middle of next week, another swath of about 2 to 4 inches worth of rain, not only across the southern plains, but also up here into the upper Midwest. Some decent rainfall totals in these blue and white shaded colors. We could be talking about 1 to 1.5 inches of rain in some of these areas. Also, that heavy snow swath. The colder air won't be there next week really either. We got those above normal temperatures like I showed you across the eastern two-thirds of the country. So the cold air will be hard to come by. So I do think the heavier snow will stay up here to the north across the Dakotas into Wyoming, Montana, getting into northwestern and central portions of Nebraska, and then the heavier swath of snow will stay up, I think, into Ontario and Quebec, Canada during next week. But then after that, things do start to break down and change toward the end of the month during that February 20th through the 27th time frame. We got those colder temperature anomalies starting to organize across western Canada, and we'll start to dampen this ridge farther southeast, getting in towards that last week in February. And that's also when we still have active weather as well. Remember, we still have that active subtropical jet here through the last week of February. So we'll still have some active weather across the West Coast and the Pacific Northwest, but also across the eastern two-thirds of the country. And that looks to set up a storm track during that 20th through 27th time frame with a low pressure somewhere across the southern plains and then moving up across the southeast and potentially towards the east coast with a narrow stripe of heavy snow from portions of the northeast, especially interior New England, through the Ohio Valley and then back across the Missouri Valley and the southern Eastern Plains, and then the heavy rain swath will be farther south as well across coastal Carolinas, getting down through Georgia, North Florida, and much of the central Gulf Coast states during that time frame. But then as we turn to the first week in March as well, I know we're getting a little far out now, but it does show that we could have another Arctic blast, at least try to move across the Great Lakes and the Northeast. This may be more of a glancing blow of an Arctic blast here than a full-on Arctic blast pushing far south. But I do think that we'll have some colder temperatures to contend with as we head towards that first week in March. So to recap my weather forecast for you guys, some spring temperatures are on the way here through the week with a storm, heavy rain, snow, and severe weather is possible. The next week, a more intense storm is looking likelier here with the rain, snow, and more widespread severe storms, especially across the Arctic and the Gulf Coast states. And then the long-range weather forecast, winter tries to come back, but especially across the northern United States and southern Canada, that's where the heaviest snow and the heaviest cold will be as we round out the month of February and move into that first week in March. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I definitely appreciate it. Remember to like the video down below, press the thumbs up button, helps to get all of this weather information out to more and more people. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. I'll get to those later on today. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new, and hit the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates on this channel. Have a great Tuesday, everybody, a great rest of your week, and I will see you all in the next video.